This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Students and staff at the University of Winnipeg are worried, and who can blame them? The university says their personal information was stolen during a recent cyber attack. The breach even exposed the bank account information of thousands of people. CBC's Cameron McLean reports on what you can do if someone steals your data.
Bank accounts, social insurance numbers, addresses. The University of Winnipeg says current and former students and staff had their information exposed to hackers. The news has people on campus concerned.
Upset. Yeah, I'm disturbed.
The cyber attack affected any students at the university since the start of the 2018 school year. And staff as far back as 2003, people like history professor Karen Froman.
A lot of personal information has been leaked, so I'm very concerned about this, not only for myself, but a lot for the students as well.
Students may have had their fees and tuition amounts, gender and marital status, and student numbers stolen.
It just kind of sucks. I don't like that they have my social security number, my banking information.
There are steps that people can take in the event of a data leak. But cybersecurity expert Kat Code says there are no easy answers.
Once the data's out, it's out. And with things like social insurance numbers, it's not like you can just go change one.
Changing passwords and getting new credit cards are some measures people can take. Other things like bank accounts are more complicated.
So you can also always message your bank and say, hey, this is the only valid institution that can direct withdrawals from my account, or turn off all direct withdrawals.
Other experts advise people to just pay attention to their accounts.
Things like your bank accounts and your credit card accounts and even phishing emails, think real hard and verify the sender before you click on things.
Code questions why the university was holding on to some of this data for so long.
From a financial perspective, you're actually supposed to keep financial records for 7 years, but that doesn't mean you need to keep the bank account number. That means you need to keep a record of how much you've paid someone or where the money went or that it was accepted.
We asked to speak to someone from the university, but no one was made available. The university has offered 2 years of credit monitoring to everyone affected. The investigation into how the hackers got into the university's system could take months to complete. Police and the Manitoba Ombudsman have also been notified. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The families of 2 men who died after being shot by police say changes need to be made in how police handle mental health calls. As CBC's Emily Brass reports, their lawyers are now calling for a joint inquest.
I just, try coping with it the best I can.
Jerry Singer spoke publicly about his brother today for the first time. 59-year-old Bradley Singer died in hospital in February after being shot by police. Officers came to his North End home on a mental health call.
It's just so unnecessary for this to happen. And I can't imagine how my brother felt dying like that. I mean, it's got to be horrific.
Singer says his brother was struggling with delusions and missing appointments with his doctor, but he says he was nonviolent and loved by many.
He's one of the nicest people you could ever know, and I just can't understand how this could happen in our, great city, province, and country.
Police were there to bring him involuntarily to a mandated doctor's exam. They say he was agitated and holding a weapon. It happened just a month and a half after Winnipeg police fatally shot Afolabi Stephen Opaso, a young man from Nigeria who friends and family describe as positive and joyful, but who'd been grappling with the pressures of being an international student. Police were called to an apartment on University Crescent. They say he was holding weapons with 2 roommates inside the suite. Now the lawyers representing both families are calling for Manitoba's chief medical officer to hear these cases together.
2 men mentally ill, killed 6 weeks apart by the same Winnipeg police force.
They say the law allows for a joint inquest when circumstances are alike.
And we want it sooner rather than later. Sometimes you don't get an inquest for years.
Both firms are handling the cases pro bono. They're also calling for more support for families whose loved ones died during interactions with police and want the city to change the way it handles emergency calls connected to mental health.
We don't want to have an experience where in Winnipeg, family members don't want to call for help because they're fearful that it might be a death sentence to their family members.
The lawyers and families say police should be better trained in mental health crises and say including civilian specialists on these calls could help de-escalate tense situations. Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A new addictions treatment center for women will be built on the grounds of the Victoria Hospital. The Ann Oak Family Recovery Center will include a range of long-term recovery supports, including on-site childcare spaces for mothers. The center is being built by the Bruce Oak Memorial Foundation, which opened a center for men in 2021. A capital campaign is now being launched to raise money for construction. True North Real Estate Development is one step closer tonight to pulling the trigger on its option to purchase Winnipeg's Portage Place Mall. CBC's Bartley Kivas has the latest on the $650 million purchase and renovation plan.
Political leaders from every level of government gathered outside the former IMAX Theatre entrance in Winnipeg's beleaguered Portage Place Mall. They heard the province make a commitment toward True North's planned purchase and redevelopment. Premier Wab Kinew says the province will sign a 35-year lease on space inside a healthcare tower slated to rise above the east side of Portage Place. The cost to the province? $77 million a year in new healthcare spending.
That includes the lease costs, but it also includes like the net new healthcare services that we're offering.
Those leases should allow True North to proceed on its option to buy the mall before a deadline at the end of June. The president of True North Real Estate said work on the healthcare tower would start in 2025 and wrap up within 3 years.
It becomes one of the major puzzle pieces in the larger downtown puzzle, reversing the risk of ongoing vacancies and threats of closure of the large, cumbersome monolith, unfortunately, we now know as Portage Place.
The province first committed to the healthcare leases last spring when Heather Stephenson was premier. In the fall, True North signed a memorandum with the Southern Chiefs organization to coordinate the renovation of Portage Place with the SCO's $200 million renovation of the former Bay building.
The biggest components of the Portage Place redevelopment plan include the demolition of this atrium. It's going away. It'll be replaced by a public thoroughfare above the east side of the building where the movie theaters used to be. That's going to be the health tower over there. And way over on the west side of the building, the residential tower. That will be co-owned by True North and the SCO.
True North is expected to ask the federal government for help with the housing component and public spaces in the redevelopment. The city will be asked to provide property tax incentives and help with streetscaping. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Manitoba government is rolling out new legislation it says will deal a blow to criminal organizations. One bill will ask for proof that property was not obtained illegally. For more on this, we're joined by the CBC's Ian Fraze from the newsroom. Ian, law enforcement can already seize property obtained by crime. How is this any different?
Well, this could happen at the start of an investigation, well before any conviction is made. The Unexplained Wealth Act will require people to explain how they got property that investigators believe is linked to unlawful activity. If law enforcement isn't satisfied by the answer, they could seize the property, whether it's a house, a car, or something else. Justice Minister Matt Wiebe says the bill will clamp down on the proceeds of crime.
It's an opportunity for law enforcement to partner with officials in justice to start proceedings with regards to criminal property forfeiture earlier in the process, to go after those individuals and those organizations that have unexplained wealth that need to answer for it.
The PCs say this bill is redundant because property can already be seized before conviction, but Janet, there are some new powers here. For example, business partners and corporation directors can also be targeted.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he's open to any province presenting an alternative to the federal carbon tax, Ian, as so long as it includes a price on carbon. Now, that's something Manitoba doesn't want. How is Premier Wab Kinew planning to convince the Prime Minister?
Well, Kinew says he'll take a different approach than the PCs, who, while in government, also oppose the federal backstop. Kinew says he won't file any lawsuits.
Our team believes in our powers of persuasion. We may not be starting from the same place as the federal government, but we believe that showing the hard investments Manitobans have made into Manitoba Hydro, the good steps we're taking on the climate in our budget this year, that we'll be able to forge a consensus to save Manitobans money and bring our partners along to that way of thinking. Yeah.
Canoe and Trudeau remain far apart on this carbon tax issue. The province is working on submitting a proposal to the feds that it says will take into account Manitoba's green initiatives, like the hydroelectricity grid, and a new program announced this week, electric vehicle rebates. Janet.
Thank you, Ian. CBC's Ian Fraser reporting. Manitoba will welcome fewer international students this year. The federal government's new cap on international students means a 10% drop in study permits it gives to Manitoba to issue. The province will only get 9,000 permits this year, down from 10,000 last year. Ottawa instituted the cap over concerns the growing number of immigrants to the country is driving up housing prices. Ontario is the biggest, loser in all of this. That province will see a 41% drop in the number of study permits it can hand out. 2 First Nations men wrongfully convicted in a 1973 Winnipeg murder are suing over what they say was cruel treatment. Alan Woodhouse and Brian Anderson were sentenced to life in prison in 1974 for the fatal stabbing of a Winnipeg restaurant worker. The men say police officers and a Crown prosecutor colluded against them to give false evidence during that murder trial. They called the behavior outrageous, scandalous, reckless, and say it exploited their vulnerability as young Indigenous men. A Manitoba judge overturned those convictions last year. The men are now suing the City of Winnipeg, the province of Manitoba, and as well as federal and provincial attorneys general for damages. None of the allegations have been proven in court. A solar eclipse is set to roll through Mexico, the U.S., and Canada Monday. Here in Manitoba, it'll be a partial eclipse. We'll start to see the sun with a big bite taken out of it by the moon just before 1 p.m., and it'll end shortly after 3 p.m. Tonight, CBC's Gavin Axelrod looks at how Manitobans are getting ready, including one man who's heading out of town to see the event in its full form.
You cannot look at the sun, naked eye. You'll do damage.
The wait is almost over for James Fast. He's an astronomy lover. With telescope and binoculars in tow, he's off to Dallas for the total eclipse.
To see the darkness come in the middle of the day, to see stars and planets come out, maybe even see a comet just next to the sun, that'll be pretty special. I think it'll be overwhelming.
This is the first time he'll see a total eclipse in real life. He even booked his hotel room last year.
I can't really imagine what it's going to be like.
People in Manitoba will see a partial eclipse here at home. And Winnipeg students are also getting ready. At Rockwood School, they're having lunch together in the gym before dancing the afternoon away and watching the eclipse online.
It feels very special to see something so, crazy, having the moon go over the sun.
The province warns looking at the eclipse can damage your eyes if you're not taking proper precautions. So at the school, they're playing it safe.
Since we're having a partial eclipse, our eyes don't understand that because it doesn't look bright, but even though it is, and it can trigger our eyesight, so we're going to be staying inside most of the day.
The province says not to use homemade filters to catch the event, and says one of the safest ways is to watch online. For those looking to be outside, a viewing party with the specialized equipment is happening at Assiniboine Park.
That's going to be it.
As for Fast, he hopes to document the experience for those who won't see the total eclipse. He plans to share photos and video. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Poor cell phone service can be frustrating. In 2024, if it happens all the time in your community, that's kind of infuriating. And that's a reality people in St. Laurent live with every day. Some say their spotty coverage has them concerned for their safety. CBC's Emily Brass recently visited that part of the Interlake for our series we call Communities in Focus.
The rush hour commute in St. Laurent runs pretty smoothly, unless you have to use your cell phone.
It's a dead zone right here, so when you're traveling from the city, you lose reception right in the St. Laurent area.
You'll drop a call
Well, I don't even know if you can hold a call on number 6.
Considering the fact that this is the main highway to Thompson, it should be an embarrassment to the province.
We've been lucky enough to spend a whole week here in beautiful St. Laurent, Manitoba, meeting people, reporting on their stories, but there has been a problem. Hello? Hello? I can't hear you. You're breaking up. Oh, I think I lost the call again.
Some say it's more than an inconvenience, it's a matter of safety.
1 mile you might have it, the next mile you might not. But if your bus breaks down in the spot where there is no service, well then there is a concern.
I don't get any emergency alerts where I stay over there sometimes, so it's really crappy. Yeah, especially when you have kids.
They can send people to the moon and do whatever, but they can't provide good cell service. So, and when you're traveling alone, a senior like myself, it would be nice to have service.
The RM says even first responders have faced cell phone failure out on emergency calls. The Reef says the community was in talks with Bell about a new cell tower, but the company never delivered.
They actually came out, they put markers as to where they're going to develop. And last year we looked into it and they informed us that it was postponed until 2026.
In a written statement to CBC, Bell was even more non-committal. It says it doesn't have plans to put in a new tower because of current economic conditions. Chartrand thinks it comes down to the profits Bell would make or not make in St. Laurent, a small community an hour from Winnipeg. But he says Bell isn't the only one to blame.
I give credit to the governments, federal and provincial, for providing new service for Indigenous groups up north for cell service. We, in my opinion, are an Indigenous group. We have a large population of Métis people. We're only 70 kilometers away. And for us to not be able to get this service is insulting.
The province says it's working with Ottawa to improve cell phone coverage in rural areas. Emily Brass, CBC News, St. Laurent.
A potter from Stonewall has been crowned Canada's best. Jen Sonnenberg from Stonewall came out on top last night in the final showdown of CBC's TV series, The Great Canadian Pottery Throwdown. It was 8 weeks of fiery competition, but Sonnenberg's blue, hockey-inspired tea set took her to the top. Last night's finale was between Sonnenberg, Kiefer Floriel, who lives right here in Winnipeg, and Elsa Valinas, who's from New Brunswick. Sonnenberg says she still can't believe it.
Oh, it was just incredible. I mean, I was speechless in the moment, and still now, having it been a few weeks later, it's still just an incredible experience. I'm still blown away.
Sonnenberg's family had a big party last night in Stonewall to watch the final episode, finally revealing that she'd won. She's an amateur potter, just does it for fun. Says it's been on the back shelf of her life since she had children. Now she's Canada's best and could have a big business. She hopes to bring pottery to the front shelf now that she's won the competition.
Gabriel Velarde looking for his first career hat trick, and here it is. He scores.
And with that, the hats came raining down last night. Gabriel Velarde's third goal, hat trick, into an empty net, earning his first ever hat trick. That goal helped the Winnipeg Jets beat the Flames 5-3. With the win, the team clinches a spot in the NHL playoffs. This will be the Jets' 6th trip to the playoffs since 2017-2018. Winnipeg hits the road now for 4 games, starting in Minnesota tomorrow afternoon. And CFL running back Andrew Harris has announced he plans to retire. The Winnipeg-born running back, who was a star at Oak Park High School, made the announcement today. He helped lead our Bombers to Grey Cup titles in 2019 and 2021 before he signed with the Toronto Argonauts. Harris will sign a 1-day contract with the Winnipeg club so he can retire as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber. Riley Lachuk joins us now with a look at your weekend weather.
Spring has sprung.
It certainly has.
And that does lead to some words of caution, Janet, of course, as rivers and stuff start to melt. stay off the ice.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to be very unstable, especially as we get into the next few days. And those temperatures, they're going to continue to rise. So yeah, rivers, streams are going to start running. Still a low flood risk in Manitoba, but we are going to start to see that ice really starting to depart in the next few days.
So keep dogs, kids off those water bodies.
Let's take a look at the snowpack across southern Manitoba. What snowpack? There is not a lot left in southern Manitoba. A little bit still through northwestern Ontario into the Whiteshell, and the Riding and Duck Mountains still have a little bit of snow on the ground, as does the northern part of the Interlake even. But yeah, pretty much all of that snow has melted here in southern Manitoba. In the north, still a little bit of snow hanging around, especially along the Hudson Bay coast. But by and large, yes, as I said, spring has definitely sprung here in Manitoba. Another nice sunny day, a little bit of high weather cloud across southern Manitoba once again today, especially back to the west. But yes, we did even see quite a bit of sun through northern Manitoba, and still a few lingering flurries out of this cloud here that is moving up into Nunavut from that system that tracked through Saskatchewan over the past couple of days. We are looking at a bit of a sunnier weekend. Still a chance, though, even as we head into the overnight period tonight, of a few snowflakes or even some rain showers first thing in the morning across northern Manitoba. In the south, yes, we start with a sunny afternoon, and we're going to be rolling right into a sunny Sunday as well. Not a lot of weather to talk about as we get into the day on Monday, which of course brings that all-important and also interesting partial eclipse for us here in Manitoba. So as we start Monday, a little bit of cloud starts to roll in. A very slim chance, I think, further south from the Red River Valley that we could see maybe a snowflake or some rain showers. By and large, though, a partly cloudy sky as we head through Monday. Yes, as that eclipse is happening, this particular forecast model at least depicting some cloud across southern Manitoba, but I'm calling it a partly cloudy sky. This could end up likely being just some sort of high weather thin cloud that will still give us a pretty good view of that eclipse if you're looking at it safely, of course. Best chance, though, later in the day, even as we head into the evening Monday, of some rain showers in through extreme southeastern Manitoba into northwestern Ontario. Winds, yes, it'll be a windy weekend for Saturday at least. As we start the day Saturday, you can see southeast winds gusting up to about 60 through the Red River Valley and into the Interlake. Really doesn't die off until we get into the day on Sunday. So yes, we are looking at a breezy day, winds 30 gusting 50 through the afternoon. 12 degrees in Winnipeg. Pressure is falling. Southeast winds right now. We'll see winds start to die off as we get into the evening tonight. Partly cloudy down to 3 degrees, 4 with a mostly sunny sky first thing in the morning. And yes, we will see those winds picking up. Southeast 30 gusting to 50 with that 13-degree high tomorrow. Double digits as we get through the rest of the weekend as well, all the way up to 15 degrees, Janet, by the time we hit next Wednesday. We'll talk about that partial eclipse a little bit later in the show.
Thanks very much, Ryan.
You're welcome.
Since opening in May 2022, Brandon's Food Rescue Grocery Store has helped save more than 740,000 pounds of food from getting thrown out by grocery stores. Well, the store has just moved to a new and larger location in the town center mall. The grand opening Wednesday saw more than 200 people visit.
You know, yesterday was our opening day here, and we had crowds that we'd never expected, right? The number of transactions exceeded our expectations.
It was wild. I was super impressed with all the people that showed up. We had, I think, close to 100 transactions in the first hour. It's not a secret that food is drastically getting more and more expensive.
We provide a dignified approach to helping people stretch their grocery budgets. When people get asked to contribute a bit to make it work, this becomes a teamwork thing, whereas they're just not getting handouts, they're helping the whole situation work. They know that their $1 a loaf helps the whole thing work. So normally we price things at approximately 20 to 30% of what the retail price is for the items. What I take away from what I've seen in the last 2.5 years or so is that the impact this has for people on fixed incomes. The number of seniors that are availing themselves of what we offer here is what has really been a learning experience for myself.
A lot of people don't realize that the biggest part about our store is to not waste the food. That's kind of where our motivation comes from, and then the motivation for it to leave the store is everybody coming to get a little bit to stretch their budget.
Certainly we're bringing an awareness to the wastage, and that wastage shouldn't be wasted. There's people who will buy it. One of the goals is about bringing people together, bringing different demographics together in Brandon, people who want to get the rescue food, people who want to get that special hand soap. But we're able to do that here. Our scale makes it all possible.
People are way more mindful when they come here of what they're consuming, you know, just being smart shoppers on getting the deals and being creative at how they can utilize that at home.
Jacob Wasserman survived the Humboldt Broncos bus crash in 2018, but was paralyzed from the waist down. See how he's now practicing with Olympic dreams after the break. Tomorrow will mark 6 years since a semi-truck sped through a stop sign in rural Saskatchewan and hit the bus carrying the Humboldt Broncos junior hockey team. 16 people died in that crash and 13 were seriously injured. Now, as Karen Pauls reports, a surviving member of the team has qualified for the 2024 Paris Paralympics in rowing.
Yeah, I've been on a fast track.
The last 6 years have been a blur for 24-year-old Jacob Wasserman, the former starting goaltender for the Humboldt Broncos. He is one of the 13 survivors in the April 2018 crash that left 16 others dead after a semi ran through a stop sign into the path of the team's bus.
How sweet the sound. This tragedy has devastated our families, our Humboldt Broncos organization.
The crash left Wasserman paralyzed from the navel down.
This horrible thing did happen a long time ago, but we got no other choice but to just keep moving forward and keep living life and just making the best out of it.
Wasserman tried sledge hockey and water skiing, but checked out rowing after a friend recommended it.
So I just decided to go and give it a try. And the boat was awkward and kind of weird to figure out at first, but rowing on the river here in Saskatoon was just quite the place to learn.
Last year, Wasserman won gold in the men's PR1 single category in the Canadian Championships. He recently won silver in Brazil. Because of that, Canada earned a spot at the Paris Games, and Wasserman qualified. He isn't on Team Canada yet. The qualifying period isn't quite over, and the team won't be named until June. But
I can say it's very likely that you will see his name on our nomination. He's only spent one season on the water, which is remarkable. I think it's a testament to who he is as an athlete.
Some of his former Broncos teammates aren't surprised.
Double trace that propelled Jacob is his ability to bounce back, his work ethic, his determination. Like when he does something, he wants to do it well. He doesn't want to just half do it. He wants to go all in with it. And so to see him do this for rowing and keep on crushing it is super inspiring.
It's incredible what he's been able to do and achieve. He's going to continue reaching all his goals and inspiring others on that journey, and no other person more deserving than him. He works hard for his goals, and I know that me and the boys are going to support him along the entire journey, so very, very proud of him.
Wasserman says he's blown away by all the support.
The Paralympics and the Olympics in general has always been like one of the biggest stages in the world, and it's like, oh, maybe someday we'll get there. So it is really cool that we might be getting closer to that dream that I've had for so long of leave the disability at the dock and I just get to go out and perform and be an athlete and do my thing.
The 2024 Paralympics run from August 28th to September 8th. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Kendo is a Japanese martial art, and its popularity is growing here in Manitoba. There are 3 Kendo clubs in Winnipeg, including Teishin Kendo Club, which practices at the Linden Woods Community Centre. CBC Manitoba's community reporter Shanalee Vidal and videographer Randall McKenzie stopped by a practice last week where many of the martial artists were fine-tuning their skills ahead of an upcoming tournament.
Nowadays, this art is done in Japan by approximately 1.56 million people. It supersedes what we have in hockey here in Canada by quite a bit. And it opens. Manitoba has traditionally had, since maybe 1968, one club, and it's been very difficult for people to learn Kendo. We've had to travel, we've had to bring people in for seminars in order to expose ourselves and improve. Over the last 10 years, I would say that those numbers have greatly expanded. And I think for the first time in Manitoba, we're seeing a really fiery and hot Kendo scene that's starting to merge. Number 2, make sure that the connection of the mono-ichi strikes. We keep alive the way of the sword, but not so much the techniques anymore. We don't necessarily have to worry about the blade. We use bamboo. This is called bogu, and it's born of Japanese samurai armor, or heavily inspired. There's 4 pieces that we wear. Today I've got on a do, which protects my midsection, the tare, which protects my legs. We wore kote, which protected our wrists, and then of course we wore the men, which protected our face and the top part of our head. The targets in Kendo, of course, are the head at 30 degrees, the wrists, the sides of the do, and you might have saw them practicing direct tsuki. The initial shout that you might have heard when 2 Kendo players came together is called a kiai. In this kiai, they are looking to bring apart vitality inside their body. And if they can bring in vitality and they can suppress their fears as well as their ego, then they're ready to move forward in their attacks. If there's any wavering in their mind, if there's any fear, they'll start to show openings and they will be cut down. When they do make a strike, what you're hearing them say is either men, kote, do, or even tsuki. So they will literally call out the target that they've hit so that their partner understands that there is no accidental strikes. Everything was intentional. When you strike a good kote, just a standard kote, your arms should be nicely extended.
I was at a point in my life where I was making major life changes. The Japanese culture has always fascinated me. With its beauty, its discipline, the armor, and I just decided while I was making all these life changes, I might as well give it a shot, and was hooked ever since the first class.
Right. Respect is a very important part of Kendo, and that we bring the respect into the dojo, but that same respect, it also helps in other everyday life. So like if you meet someone, it teaches you to be respectful to everybody, not just in the dojo, but outside.
It's a wonderful sport in which to spend time with great people in a manner in which you can engage with them with a sword while still keeping up your overall mental and physical health.
The thing I love the most about Kendo is practicing with somebody and experiencing a perfect moment where something happens that neither expected but will remember forever.
After the break, we take a step back in time to the last time Manitoba saw a total solar eclipse. We'll be right back. Okay, the last time a total solar eclipse happened here in Manitoba was in 1979. And like now, there was a lot of hype about that back then. We dug back into our archives and found this report from The National, the CBC's Terry Matty reporting from Winnipeg.
Hundreds of small groups, families, friends, neighbors, all gathered to watch the eclipse today using a variety of viewing devices, special glasses, welder's lenses, cameras, and telescopes. Groups of amateur astronomers, many of them from the United States, were greatly relieved when they awoke this morning to find that the weather forecast had changed. Everyone had over an hour to watch the moon slowly move between the sun and the earth. Many parents allowed their children to stay home so they could see the eclipse outside. For some, it was lonely. For others, a family affair.
Is it covered up yet?
No, As the moon blocked more of the sun, people began to look forward to totality, when the moon completely blocks the sun. People on 4 Transair flights had a bird's-eye view. The airline issued eclipse viewers to all passengers. Winnipeg became quite dark even before totality. The streetlights came on and motorists turned on their headlights.
And you see the way the moon is breaking up. There's a mountain on the moon which has taken a sliver of the sunlight off, and now it's disappearing. That is, in effect, one of Bailey's beads.
Despite the warnings of experts, people who had no eye protection couldn't resist taking a peek now and then. And then totality. The people could look safely without eye protection.
Isn't that a magnificent corona?
Completely dark.
What do you think of that, ma'am?
It's beautiful. It is beautiful. Really beautiful. Exciting.
What do you think of the sight, ma'am?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's really exciting.
What do you think, ma'am?
It's just incredible. It's incredible.
And after totality, the diamond ring effect. Though many people stayed indoors because of the warnings of eye doctors, those who went outside seemed to agree it was the show of a lifetime.
We're going to have to wait until the year 2024 for the next total eclipse over a populated area of Canada.
The late, great Knowlton Nash there. Knowlton Nash delivering the big news.
Yeah.
2024, well, it's here.
It's here. I want to show you a picture, though, Janet, first, from that 1979 eclipse. Mary sent this into our colleagues at CBC Morning Live. She says she took this during that eclipse in 1979, in her words, using a very cheap camera, blindly aiming it, and several of pictures turned out wonderfully. A much better strategy than, looking at it through the viewfinder, which is not that safe to do. Don't do that. And also, don't look right at the eclipse. Make sure you have proper eye protection, or find a live stream of it on your computer somewhere. So, yes, the path of totality through, as we've been saying, southern Ontario, through into the Maritime provinces. We're looking at an eclipse here of about 50 to 60%, starting at 12:54 in the afternoon here on Monday. We reached that maximum partial eclipse at 2:01 and fully ending by 3:08. In terms of the weather forecast, yes, we'll start with that path of totality Monday afternoon. Yes, still a little bit far out. Take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but yes, the forecast modeling indicating through the Niagara region there, a little bit of cloud cover, some high-level cloud, but much sunnier skies back to the east into the Maritime provinces. For us, yes, this is only one forecast model depiction, but yes, looking at some cloud cover. I'm calling it a partly cloudy sky through the afternoon Monday for southern Manitoba, where we will see, as I mentioned, that partial eclipse and much sunnier skies back to the north and to the west as well. All right, your dog walking forecast for Saturday. This is Coco and Susie, who like to walk around the Living Prairie Museum and count the deer there. I can bet that there's probably not as much snow now as when this picture was taken. Thanks, Terry, for sending that in. Talk back at cbc.ca, looking at a high of 13 in Winnipeg. Tomorrow we got up to 15s in both Melita and Morden Winkler, 12s in Winnipeg and Brandon this afternoon, and 11 in both the Paw and Thompson. Looking at your forecast for tomorrow, yes, we'll start with a slim chance of some lingering flurries or some rain showers in northern Manitoba, getting up to a high tomorrow of about 9-10 degrees generally across the region. A bit colder along the Hudson Bay coast and through the southern part of the province. A little bit of cloud passing through first thing in the morning. Otherwise, we're looking at a mainly sunny but breezy afternoon throughout the region, and we're looking at highs 13 degrees for the most part, maybe some 14s, Janet, as we get through the later part of the afternoon.
So warm. Thanks so much,
you're
Riley.
welcome.
Coming up after the break, a Winnipegger reflects on a recent trip to Ukraine, how that trip changed his perspective after the break. Jeremy Regan owns a barbershop here in Winnipeg. He's also the host of a TV show that's in production now. And as part of that TV show, he recently traveled to the capital of Ukraine. I chatted with him earlier this week about the impact of that trip he took. Here's part of our conversation.
Kyiv is one of the most modern, beautiful cities I've ever seen in my life, and day-to-day life is actually quite normal until you go to bed and you hear sirens go off and you go down the stairs of your hotel and sit in a basement and try to sleep while you're looking at an app that has, you know, bomb tracking on it, and bombs are going all over the country. And, you know, honestly, coming back home, it's hard for me to listen to the kind of BS that we have, the fighting we have between people, the angriness that I hear between people, I can't stand now hearing someone say something about communist Canada, or, you know, Justin Trudeau is a dictator, or Pierre Poilievre he's a fascist. It's like we throw around these words and these words mean nothing to us, yet the people who are dealing with these bomb threats on a day-to-day basis, and the men and women who are at the front lines in Ukraine, they're literally dealing with a fascist, a dictator. And the meaning of these words to us is just words, but to them, this is actually happening. It's a hard thing to comprehend coming back from some place where people are literally fighting for their lives.
How has it changed the way you see our life here in Canada?
I mean, I've always had a positive outlook on things, so I don't know if it's changed much more than it's hit harder that we're very lucky. You know, I was walking around the neighborhood today on this beautiful sunny spring day, and, you know, waiting for my kids to get home from school, watching them walk down the street. And honestly, my thoughts were about the people there who, at this time right now, they'll be going to bed. There's an 8-hour time difference, and they're going to be tracking the bomb app to make sure that, you know, there's not a vector of a bomb that's being sent towards Kyiv. And you almost feel a little bit guilty for living here. It sounds weird. It's hard to explain, but it's not a great feeling. And I know the longer that I'm back home and back in my routine, I'll get over it. But, you know, I just feel for the people there. They don't have a choice. They really don't. We do. And, you know, what we do with our choices is paramount of importance at this point. And, you know, I think we all need a little more empathy in our lives. I'll put it to you that way. If I could transport every person in Canada to spend one night tracking bombs in a basement in a 1950s Soviet-built hotel, as long as I knew that they could come back safe, it's an experience that everyone, I wish, could have, because your appreciation of life is just, it changes. It's crazy.
Jeremy Riggin, thank you for your time today.
You're very welcome, and thanks again for having me.
Your 7-day forecast is still ahead, and then I reveal long-held TV secrets and a really stupid thing that I do. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
Let's look at your day planner for your Saturday on what's going to be a mainly sunny weekend here in Manitoba, but windy throughout the day tomorrow once again. So starting the day at 4 degrees, mainly sunny skies, 10 by the time we hit noon, and yes, a high of 13 degrees in the afternoon. Southeast winds gust to 50, so as mentioned, will be a bit breezy. Then we look at 15 degrees for Sunday, 13 for Monday, 13 for Tuesday, and yes, double digits throughout the 7-day forecast. Maybe a bit windy by the time we hit Thursday, and Friday we're looking at a high of 10 degrees. So we've reached the end.
No, we have not.
Last show here at 6 for a while.
For a while, it is. Before I moved to hosting Radio Noon, I thought I would reveal a few TV newscast secrets and one very bad habit. I used to love filling in at CBC News Network, and here's why. Because in the big markets of Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, they still have hair and makeup people. Hair and makeup people. So it's just like the movies. You're standing there ready to deliver the news, and they're like, oh, wait. Tss, tss, and they push down all the hairs that are standing up, and they make sure your lipstick's perfect. Oh, here in the smaller markets, we do all that ourselves. Let me take you upstairs where the magic happens. So here's the thing, if you're ever watching a local newscast and it says hair by X salon, it just means X salon gets that advertising in exchange for the on-air people getting free haircuts, maybe free color, maybe free hair products. The stylist who does the actual work though, it all depends on their deal with the salon, whether they even get paid for their work. And here's another thing, if you ever see something that says clothes provided by a certain store, well, that just means that the anchors are sitting there with the tags off the borrowed clothing shoved up their sleeves. Because of my fear of borrowed clothing, I keep all the blazers I've ever purchased. That's why I have so many of them to give away. And why I have so many wounds. Wounds? What are you talking about? When was the last time you ironed a piece of clothing while wearing it? I've done it many times because, you know, oh no, it's 5 to 6. I have to get to the studio, but I just noticed this wrinkle. What do I do? Ah! It's happened so many times. It's a really bad idea.
It's a really bad idea.
Really bad idea. Don't do that again. Don't. No. Don't. And you'll notice I'm not much of a wrinkle person because we had a wrinkled shirt there. We still have a minute left in the show, even though my friend in the control room is talking like we don't. I'm just going to Radio Noon for a year, so this is not a big goodbye like John's big goodbye was. Thank you so much for all the time that you've spent with me. Riley, I have a big thing for you.
Oh,
this
no.
is, I'd like to pass you the torch.
The torch.
Your job is to keep this show and the wonderful people who look on it in good shape for a year or until the next time we sit together here.
Which I'm sure will not be too long from now.
Yeah, exactly. Emily Brass is carrying the show next week. Riley's actually back on his regular radio gig as well. And I'll be back the next time somebody's sick. So you're not going to even have time to miss me. Have a fabulous weekend.